You're sitting on your couch, it's maybe 11:30 at night, and your phone screen is lighting up your face in the dark. You're scrolling, as we all do, and suddenly, there it is. The video. Some impossibly well-rested influencer is lounging in a first-class pod on Emirates, sipping champagne, wearing luxury pajamas, and looking out the window at the clouds. And then comes the hook, floating across the screen in bold text. How I booked this $14,000 flight for just $36 and a few credit card points. You stop. You watch it twice, and instantly a very specific kind of financial FOMO washes over you. You look down at your own plain, basic, plastic debit card sitting on the coffee table, and you feel like you are fundamentally missing out on a secret world. You feel like a sucker for paying for flights with actual money. So what do? You start Googling. You go down the rabbit hole of sign-up bonuses, multipliers, transfer partners, and lounge access. You think, I buy groceries anyway, I might as well go to the Maldives for free. It's Karen here again, and I spend way too much time trying to make sense of money and people. I'm endlessly fascinated by the invisible strings that connect our emotions to our bank accounts. And honestly, credit card points are one of the most brilliant, sophisticated, and utterly dangerous psychological traps ever built by the financial industry. Because here's the cold, uncomfortable truth that no one drinking champagne in seat 1A wants to tell you. Credit card points are a scam. For the vast, overwhelming majority of people who play the game, it is an absolute illusion. The house always wins. They have rigged the casino so beautifully that you actually feel like a genius while you're handing them your money. But, and this is a massive life-altering but, you actually can win. There is a way to flip the script, beat the banks at their own game, and actually take that $14,000 flight for pennies. But it requires a fundamental rewiring of how you view money, a rejection of the way your brain is biologically programmed to seek rewards, and a strict set of rules. If you can change your perspective tonight, you can stop subsidizing other people's vacations and start taking your own. So let's just strip the whole thing down to the studs and look at what is really happening every time you swipe that shiny metal card. To understand why points are a trap, we have to talk about the concept of pain, specifically the pain of paying. Behavioral economists talk about this all the time. When you hand a crisp $20 bill to a cashier, your brain registers a tiny microscopic amount of psychological pain. You had something of value, and now it is gone. That friction is your natural defense mechanism against going broke. It is an evolutionary handbrake. Credit cards, even the basic ones without points, bypass this system entirely. You swipe, you keep the plastic, and you walk away with the goods. The pain is deferred to a statement 30 days later, which, let's be honest, feels like future you's problem. But when you introduce rewards into this equation, you are basically pouring gasoline on human psychology. Suddenly, you aren't just delaying the pain of paying, you are replacing it with pleasure. Every time you tap that card, a little register in your brain goes ding! I just earned 3 times the points on dining. I'm practically making money. Do you see how twisted that is? You are parting with your hard-earned cash, but the bank has gamified the experience so effectively that you feel a dopamine hit. I remember the first time I got a premium travel card. It was heavy, like satisfyingly heavy. You drop it on the table at a restaurant and it made a little clack sound. It felt like an adult achievement unlocked. And I noticed something subtle but terrifying happening to my behavior. I started offering to pick up the tab for group dinners. Oh, just Venmo me, I'd say, casually waving my heavy metal card around. I'm trying to hit a sign-up bonus. And it didn't stop there. I found myself wandering down the aisles of Target, putting things in my cart that I absolutely did not need, justifying it by thinking about the points. Well, it's an extra $50, but that gets me closer to my next flight tier. This is the core of the scam. The banks have convinced us that spending money is actually a form of saving money. They have masked a transaction as an investment, and we fall for it hook, line, and sinker. The points blind us to the actual dollar amount leaving our accounts. If you spend $100 to get back $2 in points, you still spent $98. You didn't make $2, you lost $98. But the gamification is so intoxicating that we completely ignore the math. Let's talk about the gateway drug of the credit card world, the sign-up bonus. You've seen the offers. Earn 80,000 bonus points when you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months. On paper, it seems like a straightforward transaction. If your rent, groceries, and gas naturally equal $1,500 a month, you'll hit that $4,000 threshold without even trying. Easy, right? But life doesn't always happen on a spreadsheet. Sometimes you only naturally spend $1,000 a month on things you can put on a credit card. Now you're in month 3, you're $1,000 short of the goal, and the deadline is looming. The panic sets in. You start thinking about the 80,000 points you're about to lose. That's a round-trip ticket to Europe, just slipping through your fingers. So what do? You manufacture spending. You buy the designer shoes you've been eyeing. You prepay your car insurance for the next 6 months. You buy a new laptop. You justify it by telling yourself, I'm getting so much value out of this bonus, it's basically free. No, it isn't. You just bought a bunch of stuff you wouldn't have bought otherwise just to appease a countdown timer on an app. I had a friend a few years ago who was obsessed with optimizing his credit card strategy. He had spreadsheets, color-coded calendars, the whole 9 yards. He signed up for a card with a massive bonus, but a brutally high minimum spend, something like $10,000 in 3 months. He told me he was going to put his home renovation materials on it. Smart, right? Except the renovation got delayed. The contractors couldn't start, month 3 was coming to an end, and he was thousands of dollars short. Do you know what he did? He bought a Peloton. He didn't even really like spinning. He was a runner. But he bought a $2,000 stationary bike just across the finish line of the sign-up bonus. He effectively paid $2,000 for a bunch of imaginary internet points that he ended up using to book a hotel in Miami that he probably wouldn't have gone to anyway. This is exactly what the banks want. They employ behavioral psychologists who understand human weakness better than we understand ourselves. They know that a ticking clock and a massive sunk cost fallacy will drive people to make completely irrational financial decisions. They want you stretching your budget. They want you living right at the edge of your means, feeling breathless but excited because you are winning the points game. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, Karen, but I don't buy Pelotons. I only buy groceries and gas. I'm responsible. That is great. Honestly, it is. But we have to address the giant multi-billion-dollar elephant in the room. Who is paying for these points? When you get a free flight, an upgraded hotel room, or $500 in cash back, that money doesn't just materialize out of thin air. It comes from 2 places. First, it comes from merchant fees. Every time you swipe your premium rewards card, the bank charges the merchant, the grocery store, the local coffee shop, the plumber, a swipe fee, usually around 2 to 3%. The merchant, not wanting to lose money, raises the prices of their goods to cover this fee. So everything you buy is already slightly more expensive to subsidize the rewards ecosystem. In a very literal sense, people who pay with cash or debit are subsidizing the luxury vacations of people who pay with premium credit cards. It's a reverse Robin Hood situation, and it's a bit morally gray when you really sit down and think about it. But the second place that money comes from, and this is the heartbreaking part, is your neighbors, your friends, maybe even you during a bad month. It comes from interest. The points game only works if you pay your balance in full every single month down to the penny. The second you carry a balance, the game is over. You have lost. If your card has an annual percentage rate of 24% and you carry a $2,000 balance because your car broke down or your dog needed surgery, the interest you pay will violently wipe out any value you got from your 2% cash back or your travel points. The banks know this. They know that life happens. They are banking on the fact that you will get sick or lose your job or just get a little careless one month. They lure you in with the promise of free travel, knowing full well that a significant percentage of people will eventually trip up and fall into the revolving debt trap. And once you are in that trap, paying 24% interest on groceries you ate 3 months ago, those points are the most expensive commodity on earth. And then there are the annual fees. Oh, the annual fees. We convince ourselves that paying $695 a year for a credit card is a smart financial move because of the credits. You get a $200 airline fee credit, a $200 hotel credit, $15 a month for Uber, a credit for a streaming service you don't even watch. The banks call this breakage. It is a beautiful corporate term for money you gave us that you forgot to ask for back. They bundle all these disparate, annoying little coupons into a premium card to justify the massive upfront cost, knowing that you will likely forget to use half of them. You start treating your credit card like a part-time job, setting calendar reminders to order Uber Eats on the 29th of the month just so you don't lose your $15. You end up paying premium prices for food delivery, eating lukewarm French fries just to break even on a fee you voluntarily paid to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. It is exhausting, and honestly, it is designed to be exhausting so that eventually you just give up, stop tracking, and let them keep the fee. Let's say you navigate all of this perfectly. You never overspend. You never pay a dime of interest. You ruthlessly track your annual fee credits. You are the perfect optimized consumer. You hoard your points like a dragon sitting on a pile of gold, waiting for that perfect once-in-a-lifetime anniversary trip to Japan. You've accumulated 200,000 points over 3 years. You are finally ready. You log into the airline portal, type in Tokyo, and your heart sinks. The flight that cost 80,000 points a year ago now costs 140,000 points. The hotel that was 20,000 points a night is now dynamically priced at 45,000 points a night. Welcome to point devaluation. Credit card points are a fiat currency, but unlike the US dollar, they are completely unregulated. The banks and the airlines are the central banks of this made-up money, and they can print as much of it as they want whenever they want. And they do. They hand out points like candy to get people to sign up for cards, which floods the market. And when there are too many points chasing the same number of airplane seats, the price goes up. There is no warning. There is no Federal Reserve meeting where they announce an interest rate hike. You just wake up one Tuesday and your life savings of airline miles are suddenly worth 30% less. This is why hoarding points is one of the biggest mistakes people make. You are holding on to a currency that is guaranteed mathematically to lose value over time. It's like putting your retirement savings into a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. The longer you hold it, the less you have. The banks love it when you hoard points because every point sitting in your account is a liability on their balance sheet that they haven't had to pay out yet. And when they devalue the points, they essentially wipe out millions of dollars of their own debt with the push of a button. It is a brilliant, ruthless scam. So I've spent the last few minutes painting a pretty bleak picture. I've told you that you are fighting an uphill battle against human psychology, multi-billion-dollar algorithms, shadow inflation, and your own brain's desire for dopamine. You might be wondering why anyone ever uses these cards at all. Why not just cut them up, go back to cash, and live a simpler life? Well, you could, and for some people, honestly, that is the best and healthiest choice. If you have a history of credit card debt, if you struggle with impulse control, or if tracking expenses causes you deep anxiety, walk away. Cut up the cards. The peace of mind of a zero-balance life is worth infinitely more than a free flight to Cancun. But if you are willing to be ruthlessly disciplined, if you are willing to treat this like a cold, calculating business transaction rather than a fun game, you can extract massive value from these systems. You can be the exception to the rule. You can be the one who actually takes the banks for a ride. But to do it, you have to follow a strict set of unbreakable rules. This is the unless you do this protocol. It is not about knowing which transfer partner is the best. It is about managing your own mind. Rule number 1, the ironclad zero balance policy. This is non-negotiable. If you cannot pay the statement balance in full automatically every single month, you are not allowed to play this game, period. You cannot trust yourself to log in and click pay. You must set up auto pay for the full statement balance. Why? Because human beings are emotional creatures. We have bad days. We get tired. We look at our checking account and think, maybe I'll just pay half this month and keep some cash on hand. The friction of handing over a large sum of your own money is real, and autopay removes that friction. If setting up autopay makes you nervous because you're afraid you might overdraft your checking account, that is a massive glowing red flag that you are spending too close to the edge. The points are a luxury. Financial stability is a necessity. Never sacrifice the latter for the former. If you pay 1 single cent in interest, the bank wins. Don't let them win. Rule number 2, decouple earning from spending. This is the hardest mental shift to make. You must completely separate the act of buying something from the act of earning points. When you go to the grocery store, you are buying food to keep yourself alive. You are not earning points. The points are a silent byproduct of a transaction you were going to make anyway. You have to train your brain to ignore the multipliers. If you find yourself saying, I'll buy this here because I get 3x points, you are slipping into the trap. You should never, ever spend a single dollar you wouldn't have spent in cold, hard cash. Before you swipe your card for an impulsive purchase, do a mental check. If I had to hand the cashier 3 $20 bills right now, would I still buy this? If the answer is no, put it back. The points are a mirage trying to trick you into parting with your cash. Rule number 3, the true cost audit. If you hold a card with an annual fee, you must do a ruthless, unsentimental audit every single year before the fee hits. Do not look at the theoretical value of the card. Look at the actual, practical value it provided you over the last 12 months. Did you use the airline incidentals credit? Did you actually use the lounge access, or did you just walk past it because it was crowded? Did the Uber credits save you money, or did they just cause you to order expensive takeout when you had food in the fridge? Write down the fee on one side of a piece of paper and write down the actual organic cash value you received on the other. If the math doesn't make sense, downgrade the card or cancel it. Do not let the sunk cost fallacy or the prestige of a heavy metal card keep you paying for a subscription service you aren't using. The banks count on your laziness. Be proactive. Rule number 4, earn and burn. Remember the shadow inflation we talked about? The fact that points are a depreciating currency? The only way to combat that is to adopt an earn and burn philosophy. Do not hoard your points for a magical retirement trip 10 years from now. Those points will be worth a fraction of what they are today. If you have enough points for a domestic flight to see your family for Thanksgiving, use them. If you have enough points to cover a couple of nights at a hotel for a weekend getaway, use them. Treat your points like a coupon that is about to expire. Get the value out of them as quickly as possible and get them off the bank's balance sheet and into your life. The joy of a free weekend trip today is vastly superior to the anxiety of hoarding points for a hypothetical future trip while the airlines constantly devalue your hard work. Rule number 5, know what game you are playing. Finally, you have to be honest with yourself about why you are doing this. Are you doing it to travel cheaper, or are you doing it because you like the gamification? There is an entire subculture on the internet dedicated to maximizing point values. People will spend hours moving points from Chase to British Airways to Qatar Airways just to squeeze an extra 0.5 cents per point out of a redemption. They will take a flight with 2 layovers instead of a direct flight just to experience a specific business class product. If that is your hobby and you enjoy the puzzle, great, but recognize it for what it is, a hobby that requires time, energy, and mental bandwidth. If you are just a regular person who wants to take their family to Disney World without going into debt, don't get sucked into the optimization game. A point redeemed for a simple coach flight that saves you $300 in cash is a successful redemption. Don't let the internet make you feel bad for not extracting maximum theoretical value. Your time is worth money too. Sometimes the easiest redemption is the best redemption. When you look at that influencer in the first-class pod sipping champagne, you are looking at the end result of a massive, complex machine. It is a machine fueled by merchant fees, fueled by the interest paid by people who are struggling, and fueled by the psychological manipulation of millions of consumers. The flight isn't free. Somebody paid for it. The banks are counting on the fact that eventually that somebody will be you. They are betting that your desire for luxury will overpower your mathematical reasoning. They are betting that the friction of a $695 annual fee will fade into the background, while the dopamine of a 5x dining multiplier will keep you swiping. You are stepping into a casino every time you open your wallet. The lights are flashing, the bells are ringing, and the waitresses are handing out free drinks. It is designed to disorient you. It is designed to make you feel like a winner right until the moment you realize your pockets are empty. But you don't have to play by their rules. You can walk into that casino, count cards, take exactly what you came for, and walk out. You can use their system to fund your life, rather than using your life to fund their system. It just takes awareness. It takes a willingness to look past the shiny marketing and the heavy metal plastic and see the transaction for what it is. It takes the discipline to treat your credit card as nothing more than a dangerous tool, like a power saw. Used correctly, it can build something beautiful. Used carelessly, it will take your fingers off. So the next time you are standing at the checkout line and you reach for that card, just take 1 second to pause. Ask yourself, am I buying this because I need it, or am I buying it because they want me to? Take the power back. Stop subsidizing the system. Pay your balance, burn your points, and then maybe you really will be the one looking out the window of that airplane, knowing you actually beat the game.